At 6:12 in the morning, a sheriff's tow truck winched the HOA president's neighborhood compliance golf cart off my driveway while she shrieked into a megaphone that my mountain house was community property. A drone, hers, hovered overhead until the deputy pointed at it, and it crash-landed into my azaleas like a guilty pigeon. Neighbors filmed everything. Someone yelled, "Free the golf cart." Another neighbor was eating cereal on her porch like this was dinner theater. It was the most exciting thing to happen on Maple Ridge Drive since someone planted petunias in the wrong shade of purple. I'm Owen Talbet, quiet, spreadsheet guy, enjoys poring over coffee silence. I live in Cedar Vale Reserve, a neighborhood where the mailboxes match and the gossip is carbonated. I keep to myself, mow straight lines, wave at dogs. 2 years back I bought a small A-frame up in blue Elk Ridge. It's my retreat with creaking stairs, elk prints in the mud, a wood stove that doesn't care about HOA newsletters. The place cost me less than a luxury sedan, but after some renovations and the surrounding land purchase, it became my personal sanctuary. Nobody knew about it except my closest friends and apparently, Felicia's spy network. Enter Felicia Klene, our HOA president with helmet hair, clipboard that could cut glass, smile like a dentist's bill. She learned, via extremely nosy channels, that my company went public and my little A-frame wasn't so little. Community enhancement opportunity, she called it. I recognized the tone immediately. Charity for everyone but me. Felicia had been HOA president for 6 years, running unopposed because nobody else wanted the job. She treated the position like she was governing a small nation, complete with matching polo shirts for the board members and monthly newsletters that read like royal decrees. Felicia began the ritual hazing. First came a citation for unsightly shadow on my lawn. The shadow belonged to a passing cloud. I'm not joking. She had photographed my lawn at 2:30 in the afternoon, drawn a red circle around a shadow, and mailed it certified with a 14-day compliance deadline. Then a complaint about my garage door lingering open. It was mid-close, like all garage doors do. She claimed it had been open for 17 minutes. I checked my smart home log. It was 90 seconds, the exact time it takes for the motor to complete its cycle. A warning letter arrived because my wind chimes violated quiet hours by suggesting bohemian attitudes, whatever that meant. The chimes were a gift from my late grandmother, but Felicia's letter strongly suggested I replace them with something more aligned with neighborhood standards. She actually included a link to approved wind chime vendors. Then the surveillance escalated in ways that made my skin crawl. I caught her crouched behind my hydrangeas photographing my recycling bin for record-keeping, she claimed. When I asked what she was documenting, she said she was monitoring compliance with the county's recycling guidelines. My bin had pizza boxes, apparently a violation. Never mind that the county explicitly allows pizza boxes. A week later, a community survey appeared in everyone's mailbox asking would residents support board-managed use of vacation properties for neighborhood retreats? The survey was clearly about my property. It included oddly specific questions like would you support the HOA maintaining a mountain cabin for member use, and should owners of secondary properties contribute them to community wellness initiatives? I politely declined to participate in whatever scheme she was cooking up. She not so politely replied that we'll revisit this, followed by 3 exclamation points. That evening, a drone buzzed past my bedroom window, panning like a nosy hummingbird. I waved at it. The drone did a guilty wobble and fled. Over the next 2 weeks, I'd see that same drone circling my house at odd hours. Once at dawn, twice at dusk, and memorably at 10 at night when I was bringing in groceries. Each time I looked up, it would retreat like a startled bird. The email arrived at 3:11 in the morning from Felicia's HOA account. A PDF settlement proposing I deed temporary stewardship of my blue Elk Ridge cabin to the HOA for team building, plus an open calendar for her executive committee. The document was 12 pages long, written in dense legalese clearly copied from some online template. Refusal, she wrote in bold red text, would trigger reports about my unpermitted grading, tax inconsistencies, and unsafe firewood storage, all CC'd to county, state, and federal land partners. Every accusation was false, but she'd clearly researched which agencies might cause me the most headaches. Attached were photos clearly shot by drone over my mountain property, including zooms through my windows, frames of my bookshelves, and a pan over my safe. She'd captured images of my living room, my home office, even the inside of my kitchen. Some photos were taken at angles that required the drone to hover directly outside my windows. She ended with, "We know what you keep there." The implication was clear and deeply unsettling. I'm calm by default, but that sentence hit like a trap snapping. This wasn't HOA overreach anymore. This was criminal. I called my attorney first thing in the morning. He went silent for a long moment after I forwarded him the email, then said in a very measured tone, "Owen, this is extortion." Then I called the county fire marshal, who I'd worked with on some volunteer wildfire prevention projects. He took one look at the photos and said, "You need to call the sheriff today." At his suggestion, I contacted the sheriff's office and spoke with a detective who specialized in property crimes. We looped in the FAA about low-altitude drone operations near protected forest and a postal inspector about extortion via interstate email, since Felicia had sent her demands from her personal email account, which counted as using mail services for illegal purposes. The room got very, very quiet on their end when they saw the attachments. The detective leaned back in his chair and said, "Ma'am doesn't do anything small, does she?" We set a sting at the next HOA town hall. My attorney suggested we gather more evidence first, so we installed cameras around my property and documented 3 more drone flights over the following week. Each one came from Felicia's backyard. Each one flew directly to my house. Each one hovered at window level. We had timestamps, flight paths, everything. I arrived at the town hall with a binder and a very bored-looking deputy in the back row. He was in plain clothes, sipping coffee from a travel mug, looking like any other annoyed homeowner forced to attend a mandatory meeting. Felicia strutted in wearing a sash, yes, a sash, that read President in gold letters. She'd also brought a gavel, which was not part of the official HOA materials. She projected her slideshow titled Shared Prosperity, Leveraging Second Homes. The presentation was professionally designed with charts and graphs about community asset optimization. Slide 3 was my cabin, circled in HOA maroon with the caption, "Underutilized resource, high community value potential." She'd even included estimated rental value comparisons and a proposed booking calendar. The audacity was breathtaking. I stood up and said, "Before we leverage anything, I have a quick Q&A for the board." Felicia's smile tightened. I clicked to my own slideshow on my laptop, which I'd connected to the projector. We watched a time-stamped video of her drone launching from her backyard, swooping over blue Elk Ridge, and bumping into my wind chime like a tiny drunk UFO. The room went completely silent. Then came the emails, enlarged for the cheap seats, complete with metadata showing they'd been sent from her personal device. I showed the photos she'd taken through my windows, zooming in on the reflections that clearly showed the drone's shadow. The deputy coughed. Felicia's face went from confident pink to splotchy red. Then came the cherry on top. I displayed a map showing every drone flight path over the past month, logged by the FAA after they'd requested data from local air traffic monitoring. 15 flights, all originating from her address, all terminating at mine. The room turned into a church. You could hear people breathing. Felicia's smile became a paper cut. The deputy stood up, pulled out his badge, and said, "Ms. Klene, can we talk out front?" She tried to scold him about jurisdiction, demanding to know who authorized law enforcement at a private HOA meeting. He pointed at her drone case, which she'd foolishly brought with her, sitting right there by her purse. Her jaw clicked shut. She grabbed her things and walked out, the sash still draped across her blazer like a beauty pageant contestant who'd just been disqualified. 2 weeks later, the board reconvened without Felicia. The county cited her for criminal trespass and creating a nuisance. The FAA issued a civil penalty of $1,400 for unlicensed operations and flying over people without consent. Drone operators need special certification to fly over private property, especially near dwellings. She had none of it. The postal inspector's office served her with an extortion complaint under federal statute. Turns out using HOA email to demand a house is not community engagement. It's a federal crime. The prosecutor was particularly interested in her threat to file false reports with government agencies. Meanwhile, her executive committee text thread leaked where she'd referred to my cabin as the board retreat/wine cave. Someone on the committee, fed up with her antics, forwarded the entire conversation to the neighborhood portal. In the texts, Felicia discussed how she'd use my cabin for personal vacations, board retreats that were really just weekend parties, and possibly rented out to pocket the money. She'd even joked about changing the locks and daring me to do something about it. The texts were damning, showing clear premeditation and intent. At the special meeting, I calmly read a motion to remove Felicia as president, bar her from any committee with decision-making power, and appoint a receiver until elections. The vote was 32-0. Motion passed like a sneeze. A neighbor I've never met brought brownies to celebrate. People were practically dancing in the parking lot. Then came the second cherry. Felicia's own side hustle, short-term renting her garage as a micro-loft against HOA rules, surfaced in the minutes she'd accidentally uploaded to the neighborhood portal while trying to delete the text messages. The same rulebook she'd been flogging me with swatted her squarely. She'd been renting the space on a vacation rental site for 8 months, earning roughly $2,000 a month, all while citing other homeowners for far less. Fines stacked like Jenga blocks. The HOA rulebook she loved so much specified $250 per day for unpermitted commercial use. The math was ugly. Felicia accepted a plea deal on the misdemeanor charges and paid a civil settlement of $18,000 to avoid federal prosecution for extortion. As part of her probation, the judge banned her from operating drones for 5 years and ordered 200 hours of community service clearing brush on wildfire breaks, the same safety work she'd pretended to champion when she sent those threatening emails. She does it in a neon vest that says volunteer, which the neighborhood lovingly reads as void. When the sentence came down, Felicia stood in the courtroom, her face pale, that same tight smile finally cracking into something that looked like genuine shock. The judge added that any future HOA involvement required prior approval from her probation officer. Her hands shook as she gripped the defendant's table.